Cool, we are recording. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Skinner, and I am the Executive Director here at Laboratory, an artist residency located in Spokane, Washington. For about a year now, we've been doing a remote residency because obviously we can't have people in person due to the pandemic. And we're excited to share our last two artists in our winter round. I'm going to give it maybe about another minute so more people can trickle in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, awesome. Real quick, I just want to go over the format we're going to do tonight. Our artists will talk about their work, do a little bit of demoing of the work they've been creating during their residency, and then Lucia Riffle will go ahead and moderate our Q&A for us. So if everyone could hold their questions to the end, we'll definitely make time for that as well. And one thing I think I need to state as well is that Apple Butter Animated will be doing a demo on Twitch. I'm not sure if you have to create an account to interact. I don't think so, no. But we'll drop the links in the chat, so look out for those. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with winter resident Cal Fish, who is based in New York City. And Cal, I will spotlight you and let you take it from here.
Sweet. Hello. Thank you for having us in this residency and for hosting this live stream. So why don't I go and share my screen? So I'm gonna go through a kind of slideshow in preview here to lead up to this project and kind of give it context within the work that I've been doing. Yeah, I'm tempted to be like, stop me if you have any questions, or but I guess that's not what's gonna happen. I guess I'm just gonna go and hope that it is a pace that makes sense. Okay, so I've been really interested in interactive sound art for a long time. And kind of the biggest part of that interactive sound work has been a sculpture and instrument called the dynamic listening instrument that uses a Venn diagram of magnetic fields and buckets to allow people to interact with multisensory sound installations. So this image is a bucket with a speaker at the bottom. Yes, very early bucket. Here is an early installation with a dynamic listening instrument in Boston, in Union Square, where I did a week-long residency in January 2018. So this little kid, very excited because kids are the best at interacting with art. Not much hesitancy, they're ready to touch, whereas a lot of people kind of are shy or assume that the art isn't interactive. But so this kid has this bucket, and on the bottom of the bucket is a copper coil. It's a magnetic coil. And then here are copper wires. And this is what I was talking about when I said a Venn diagram of sound, because when you bring that bucket into the circumference of these wires, you are able to hear a different sound. So the yellow inside the perimeter maybe has a recording of a cow mooing. I don't think that's what it had, but it could. And then maybe this pink one has a recording of bells recorded in this public square the night before. So this kid can run around and mix these recordings, and the closer the bucket is to the ground, the louder the sound will be. If you hold it in the air, you can barely hear it. Just a really fun multi-sensory sculpture that I made. And I became really interested in how can I create public installations where there's a sonic archive informed by that place that people can have fun interacting with, either as something to like critically listen to and gain information about the area and communities they're in, or just something like a fun instrument to use for dance or just play or anything. So I thought it could be cool to explain how this works a little bit. So I'm gonna draw a little bit. So basically the way the dynamic listening instrument works, and you'll see some photos after, is like this. So there's this part. This is kind of the brain. It's the brain and the amp. So it's the brain because it holds my sounds and has amplifiers and can be battery powered. So there's this part, the brain and the amp, my sounds and my amp. And then there's my copper wire. So I'm drawing my wire here. My wire is copper, and it just goes around and around itself. And when it goes around itself so many times like this, it just creates a magnetic field. The copper wire just does this awesome thing where it creates a magnetic field that's inside the perimeter of the wire. And so what I do to my wire is I plug in my wire to my amplifier as if it's a speaker, like as if I'm plugging in the two in and outs from a speaker. And so then my electronic sound signal is going through this wire and it gets blended with the magnetic field. So it's an electromagnetic field, like EMF radiation, but it's not dangerous, theoretically. So the sound is always happening in this area, but you can't hear it unless you have a receiver. And so that's why you have a bucket, because it's a great acoustic amplifier. The architecture of the bucket amplifies sound. So you have your bucket, and then you have another copper wire coil that's at the bottom of the bucket. And the bucket better have some like cool decorations on it so it feels like a nice character or something. And then when I bring the bucket into the perimeter, it's like, wah, wah, wah. And then, of course, it's important to decorate the wire with colorful crocheted yarn and things like this. That was my original thinking. Okay, so I hope that that was a little bit interesting. I just want to explain this really cool technology that allows you to control sound. And it's just so simple. It's not new. It could have been done 100 years ago because it's literally just copper wires creating electromagnetic fields. Really cool. So this is what that brain looks like. This is a dynamic listening instrument junior. So there's a car battery, and then there's little amplifiers in here. And you just plug your induction loops. That's what these copper wires are called, induction loops, into them. And then you get your sound out in the middle of the room, and you can have an installation like this, where you bring the bucket into the perimeter and then you hear the sound. So this was from an installation called Place Accumulation, Kingston, Ulster, which was kind of the beginning of focusing on communities around the Hudson River, which I later start to call the pre-York River, because I don't like constantly referring to it as the Hudson River. That doesn't make much sense, and we could get into that, but we won't right now. And the idea of this installation is that you're inside of an archive. So there's all these collected materials on the walls in a chronological order that's traced out in scores. And you can view this archive with your body, and then you can listen to this archive sonically. And I'm telling you all this because what I've been trying to do in laboratory is create virtual versions of this instrument because of the necessity of having to create a virtual version if I'm going to continue to share my artwork in the style that I've wanted to. And there are some things that the idea of having this project be virtual opens up, like just having a more comprehensive archive or like a more legible archive. It's possible to have a much more legible archive online than in person. In person, it feels extremely ephemeral and sensory. Whereas online, it's a little more didactic, but it's also just, I don't know, I'll get back to that. Anyway, here's the instrument in another park in Kingston. So this is part of that same project. And then this initial project in Kingston is when I just kind of naturally started stumbling upon activists and environmental activists working in Kingston, and the work began to follow them. Different groups. Like this was an action outside the Republican Congressman John Fasso's office, because every Friday people would protest outside of his office. There's a band playing, and there's a man who delivers a pie to the office, cut into tiny slices to illustrate the amount of our budget, our taxes that go to the military. It was a very funny, surreal scene. Yes, so some of the sounds I like to work with usually come from these communities of resistance. This is two people in top of the Ferncliff Fire Tower looking across the Hudson River at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, I think it was, to look at some weather balloons that were being flown across the river to illustrate how high a proposed fracked gas burning power plant would be. It would be the only power plant of that type in the area. And so these people went up there to take photos, and I interviewed them while they were up there. There's another drawing where you can see the weather balloons, and then you can see local people in the community going to public board meetings and condemning the project. This is really, I'm simplifying so much. I'm gonna just keep zooming through. This again is someone inside of the archive. And so if you read everything on the walls and listen, spend a lot of time listening, you can really get a broad, intense picture of the type of activism and community ecologies in this place, but also you could just swing a bucket around and hear cool sounds. And both those things were really encouraged. Yeah, okay. Then in September 2019, I started using the name Pre-York River, which is a name that I'm using for this laboratory project as well. And here, instead of having those crocheted wires, I started making blankets. So this is at the Haverstraw Riverwide Arts Festival. And we're right on the banks of the river. And there are these blankets that I made, informed by Haverstraw. And people could just come and hang out on them and listen to the sounds inside of them, because when you bring one of these buckets onto a blanket, sound comes out of it. The sounds are connected to the blankets through electromagnetic fields. And it was really nice. It was like really fun. And once again, kids know what to do with the art. Here, look at this kid. He's picking up my plastic flag because he gets it. See these moves? And this is when also, instead of just buckets, I started having pillows. So this pillow also has a speaker inside. And when you bring it on the blanket, you can hear sounds. Look at that listening. It's really nice. And it's hard to see here, but embroidered into these blankets, this is the Bowline power plant, a giant power plant that's in Haverstraw. That's been a giant part of the ecology there for many years. And the Indian Point nuclear power plant, which is a nuclear power plant on the Hudson River. Literally, they use the river to cool the power plant down, and fish get sucked in and boiled. And when the people who operate the power plant get questioned about that, they say that the fish like it. It's like taking a hot bath. So that's pretty absurd. That plant, it's been supposed to be closed for a long time, but it keeps going farther and farther because it's really high risk to even close a nuclear facility. Okay. So this was just the beginning of focusing on the river, on blankets, and on pillows. And then Pre-York River kind of paused as an interactive sound project and became a clothing project. Because I like to make clothing, custom clothing that exist in different series. So there just became a Pre-York River series. And so this is wearable art from recycled clothing that just is based on places in the Hudson Valley mainly. Just communities along the river. Yeah. And yeah, just continue to make them. It's really fun. Okay. So now here we are. I hope that I'm pacing. Take a second. Just chill for a sec. Yes, so what I've been doing for laboratory, again, is to try and make a virtual representation of this project, of a project like this. So theoretically, that would involve focusing on a specific place and community, doing a survey of that place, and choosing some ecological players to focus on and find out how these communities and ecologies are sounding, and then make a blanket, and then collect sounds, and then start building an archive. And then instead of just having this archive exist in public spaces for short amounts of time, to have a internet installation that people can visit and that grows over time. And I'll return to that idea. So this is the map blanket. This is one photo of it. I will say I need to continue to photograph it. Something that this digital work calls for is high resolution images, and that's not my jam. I like making scrappy things that you hold in your hand. So I've been working on that. This map has a lot of different place names. It's really mixed up. A lot of them are American Indian names, like Mispat or Maspatches Creek is what this creek was called before. And now it's referred to as Newtown Creek. And this is, oh my gosh, there's really so much to say. Okay, let me stop myself. So what I'm mainly focusing on this map is the proposed North Brooklyn pipeline. This is a pipeline built by National Grid, and it goes from right here on the banks of Newtown Creek, where there's been giant oil infrastructure for over 100 years, and it travels through Greenpoint, Williamsburg, Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, and Brownsville to this other pipeline that's been there for a longer time. And this pipeline carries fracked gas from Pennsylvania because fracking is illegal in New York, but there's still new fossil fuel burning projects being built in New York so that people can sell their oil from Pennsylvania. So this pipeline was built completely without anyone's consent or the community's being asked, and it doesn't have oil flowing through it yet. That's where the stage we're at, is opposing these new facilities they're trying to build on the creek. Just had to say that because that's very important to this whole project. So that's why the creek is really highlighted, as well as Greenpoint. Some other labels like Canarsie, different spellings of Canarsie. The Canarsie Indians were the people who mainly inhabited this area before it was settled by Dutch and lots of other people. This is Rockaway. And yeah, this pipeline also goes right past Rockaway, and the map needs to keep being worked on. I think it will be worked on in installations. Okay, so this map is kind of like the big deal for me, to make this big blanket map, because it's very large. And I used like a lot of pastel and different embroidering techniques, and the materials were recycled. Like the main blanket in the back came from this used furniture place that's across the street from my studio called Lion's Den. And Lion is just an awesome guy. And he just had this moving blanket that he's used for years probably, that has like so many weird stains and everything. But I just thought it was so perfect for this. And I like sourcing materials from the area that my work is based in. So like where I'm pointing on the map right now, I hope you can see my little cursor. This is where my studio is. This is where Lion's Den is. Oh wow, it's like lipstick. This is where my apartment is, which is on the route of the pipeline. That's where I am right now. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So this is a pillow that I bought at a church on Bushwick Avenue in the route of the pipeline. And then this is a doppelganger pillow that I made. Ooh, that's cool. Oh my goodness, that's cool. Okay. And this doppelganger pillow is a listening object. So this is what someone experiencing the sculpture uses to listen to the sounds. There's a speaker inside, and when you bring it onto the blanket, sound comes out of it. Wow, look at that transition. Okay, this is another listening object. It's another stuffed animal with a speaker inside. And here it is on the map at an action shot. There's another shot. And then, so these are the listening objects you can use in the virtual installation. This is a fictional bucket. It's fictional in my life. To me, it's the ideal bucket stock image, a blue plastic bucket that you should use as a listening device. Okay, so I'm gonna switch gears and I'm gonna go to the sketch. Yes, okay, new share. I hope this is working. Can you see the internet tab that I'm sharing? Can someone verify this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so on the website, what you would do is you'd click on this, and it's a lobby that gives you information a lot, which I just told you. This is another blanket of the wastewater treatment plant on the creek. It says all this, and then it says to click this. It takes a long time to load, but when it loads, it looks like this. Why don't I just or do I want to reload it? Okay, if it works, I'm not going to reload it. So this is the virtual sketch. It was coded in P5.js, which is a JavaScript language kind of developed for artists to just as a tool for artists to make interactive websites. So the way this works is it loads, you have to click on this, and when you click on that, all of the sounds start. But you cannot hear them until you bring the listening objects into the areas. So I'll start with this friend. If I go too fast, I will drop them. And so I need to be very slow which I think is nice because it makes you slow down. It's also frustrating too. So I like that. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna bypass all these circles. But so we're in the circle, and so we're hearing this sound. And I can click on the circle, and I get photos from that area. This is the Western Beef parking lot. This is the sound of these recycling machines that are just beeping, saying they're out of order. And cargo boats leaving the creek. So, and then we're gonna move. We're gonna move to 19th century.
We host, we have like open hours here. We
Yeah. Let's see, let's go upstairs. Thank you so much for bringing us in here.
Yeah.
We're from Team Picon in McCullough, DP's electrical contract. So I'm gonna come back to this one, and we'll go over here to Manhattan. So this sound point is from an action to condemn the Williams pipeline, which was a pipeline that was supposed to be built down here, but it was actually defeated by activist efforts. And I think it's really funny because this recording sounds really silly. The songs and chants,
what do we do? Stand up, fight
they just sound funny, but the pipeline was canceled. I think that's fun. I think it is really hopeful.
Cuomo! William Tresco's got to go. Hey, hey! Cuomo! William Tresco's got to go. Hey, hey! Cuomo! William Tresco's got to go. Hey, hey! Say ho ho.
Yeah.
Hey, hey! Cuomo! William Tresco's got to go. Hey, hey! Cuomo! William Tresco's got to go. Hey, hey! Cuomo! William Tresco's got to go. Hey, hey! Cuomo! William Tresco's got to
Look
go.
where we
Hey,
at now. You got a big corporation like National Grid trying to set us backward, but we already went to the future. We already went to the future. We stepped into the future. We did this
This is a phone interview I did with Gabriel Jameson, who's just an amazing person and activist
not just solar,
from Brownsville, who has helped build, like, just help equip like over 3,000 houses with solar panels in Brownsville.
More sustainable solution. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not going to speak over him for a sec.
Green job, but that's what we did. We created green jobs. We created workforce development for youth, solar workforce development in the nation. That's the first in the nation. No one ever did that before. We're the first to do it. And that's from Brownsville. Think about the conversation that Brownsville have, and this is being done in Brownsville. The next steps we should be doing is, I guess, sustainable development, creating greenhouses, affordable condos through sustainable design. Those are the next steps we should be doing. But we don't even got time to focus on that. We're focused on other pipelines. But like I said before, it's just to the future. If they're going forward, how you trying to keep them back? They're going to go slow. I want the BRG.
Yeah, so right now there's 3 sounds playing at once. It's the interview with Gabriel Jameson down here. It's this really cool droning tone that you can hear outside of the wastewater treatment plant. And then it's recordings from the climate strike in 2019. That was in New York City.
Why are they?
And it's a part where Greta Thunberg is giving a speech, but people keep passing out because it's so hot. And so the speech has to keep being stopped because everyone in the crowd starts chanting medic. In the recording, you can hear some of Greta's speech and an amazing speech by Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson also. So yes, and I'll just say also, you can play this like an instrument too. This point is where my bedroom is, and it's just me playing flute. And it's just like, so then you could use this as like an instrument instead of just an archive, but I would encourage people to treat it as an archive that they can deal with at their own pace. And I'll just say that in this previous week, I went to an action outside the fire department headquarters in New York City. And so the idea is that this map continues to be added to over time. The living archive, living because people can interact with it and make it do their own, like you can drive the archive, but then also things are added over time. So this recording from this week is now here.
First responders opposed National Grid's plan. LNG is an extremely dangerous, hazardous material that has a terrible track record. From the 1944 Cleveland disaster that leveled 1 square mile, including an entire tank farm, killed 130 people and left 14,000 people homeless, to the worst industrial accident in Staten Island history in 1973, where 40 workers were killed working on an LNG.
We will not just stand aside and watch. We are united behind the science, and we will do everything in our power to stop this crisis from getting worse. Even if that means skipping school or work, because this is more important. Why should we study for a future that is being taken away from us?
Yeah, so I encourage you to check that out. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go back to my, here, actually, maybe this will be, I'll just show quickly. This is like what the code looks like. I was never trained in coding, so this actually looks pretty organized, but I think that it's probably not how it's supposed to be organized. And this is the only, trying to learn this coding is the most I've ever applied mathematics, really, because before I've just never have like had a justified reason to. I was always really frustrated in my high school algebra classes and stuff because I was like, why are we doing this? What application does this have? So I will say that coding did offer the first like reason to code and deal with logic in this new way. Yeah, this is the code. This is the code. And I just learned from like YouTube tutorials. So it's possible. If you have an idea, the people who are working on this software want you to be able to do it. Yeah, let's go through some pictures of this slideshow. This is a rose garden across the street from the wastewater treatment plant, where I recorded that interview with Willis from Newtown Creek Alliance. Just had a lot of interesting things to say about blending industrial ecology with a green ecology. This is a great book I've been reading, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which just kind of questions the commitment to nonviolence that the climate movement has and the contradictions of that commitment. So a lot of my project involved just kind of like walking around the area in question, doing like site visits basically. And there's some weird stuff. There's like these extremely dilapidated industrial areas with like inexplicable green architecture. We just have this like solar panel in this abandoned lot with a security camera on it, like really weird, surrounded by oil infrastructure. It's like, oh, there's green architecture and green energy, but it doesn't quite add up. This is from that action in 2018 against the Williams pipeline. And I'm just showing this because like my effort is an effort to create a tool for people's history, the same way this banner is a tool for people's history. That gets brought out in times when information needs to be shared. This was the action on Wednesday. Some cool signs. We got lyric sheets, chalk art. Yeah, and where we're at now is that on March 10th, there's a public hearing with the DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, because the infrastructure to fuel this pipeline is illegal because liquefied and compressed gas is illegal to flow through the pipes in New York City because it's so dangerous. And so they're trying to get a permit to do it. So I made this poster for this hearing that was distributed in leaflets. This is the view out my window where I can see the imaginary pipeline, which does go through my street. And this pothole fire because there's been a lot of pothole fires and they could easily ignite the dangerous gas in the pipe and create a disaster. And yeah, people have been using the image of a snake to illustrate the pipeline going through Greenpoint, Williamsburg, Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, Brownsville. This is my version of it. And yeah, I'm excited to continue to work on this project, to do public installations when it's warmer out and to try and make this website work better. And yes, I don't want to keep going if I'm taking up too much time. So I feel like I've said what I want to say, but I can share more. How are we feeling?
I think that's great, Cal. Could you drop the link into the chat for people to interact with your map?
Yes, I will. Although, yes, I will.
Okay,
But
wonderful.
I would recommend checking it out after the talk.
Yes.
Because I need to fix one link. Okay. Stop
Perfect.
sharing. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I wasn't zooming.
No,
Oh,
Cal, that was great.
and I'll just quickly, well,
Go for it. Go.
well, I just saw the chat. Okay. Never mind. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. And everyone, if you have questions about Cal's work, just go ahead and save them for the end. We'll have a Q&A with all the artists. And okay, yeah, Cal, thank you so much. It was fun to see how your project progressed. And yeah, I love the outcome of your interactive map and the listening pieces that you chose to drag over. I thought that was really clever. Okay, up next, we're going to introduce Apple Butter Animated, and that's with Jackson Ammenheuser, sorry, Jackson Ammenheuser and Megan Jedrysiak. I knew I was gonna do this, right? Jedrysiak, gosh, it's all because of the pressure, I apologize. I'll let you guys take it from here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. That was first off, that was a really great presentation, Cal. It was really great to see that process from start to finish. That was really awesome.
I'm excited to check it out.
And thanks for coming out, everyone. We're going to get started sharing a little presentation as well.
This is us.
Yeah, we are Apple Butter Animated.
I'm Megan Jedrysiak.
I'm Jackson Ammenheuser. So this is just a quick roadmap of what we're going to go through today. We're going to quickly go through our background, how we met, our experience in animation, and then talk about our first robot and how we started getting involved in interactive works. And then what we're working on currently and how our project with Laboratory is going. Yeah, so we will start
Yeah.
with us.
So this is us last year. A lot of the work that we do and the work that you're going to see today is stuff that we've made as a collaborative practice. But we are just two individuals as well. We met at DePaul, probably more than 2013. This is in Chicago. So that's like 7 years ago.
That we met?
That this photo was taken.
Oh yeah, this photo is 7 years old. We met like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is when we very first started collaborating. So we commercially, professionally, we run our own animation studio, which is a practice we've been doing for about 6 years since we finished school. And this is a bit of what we do.
Every day.
Every day. This is most of our work. I'll just quickly show our reel.
Share that, audio.
Look out my window, lust for another life. Grass is greener, grass is always green on the other side. I race, then crash, and speed through yellow light. Can't tell what's real, nah, can't tell what's real. But I feel good, I cannot complain. I had a lot to say, but now it's all good. Love is on the brain, and well, I feel alright.
Yes. So that's a lot of the type of problem solving and image making that we do on a day-to-day basis, and kind of our background as well.
Yeah. Really quickly, these are some animated works that we've worked on. That was where we really first started exploring art and our practice of making stuff. These projects were shown at film festivals and in local galleries and projection mapping installations, that sort of thing. Total wild range of things there. But yeah, our first dipping of the toe into interactive works started a few years ago with our painting robot, which is a very DIY project that we put online and allowed people to interact with. We're gonna watch the first like 2.5 minutes of this video talking about this project. And then after that, we're gonna talk a bit more about how this project kind of led into Breakfast Bot with Laboratory. This is our painting robot.
We streamed it live on Twitch and let chat decide what to paint.
And this is what they painted. And this is someone painting a big donger in my room.
We're gonna get to how the robot works, but first, how we got here.
This whole idea sparked from seeing this.
It is an attempt at pure creativity.
What we're investigating is, can data be creative?
Keep notes. This project may turn out to be of interest to scholars in the future.
Really?
Well, of course, think about it. A blind man teaching an android how to paint. That's got to be worth a couple of pages in somebody's book.
4 years ago, I saw that and thought, a painting robot, that could save me some time. It could paint, I could work. How hard could it be? So we started building. We didn't have any coding or robotics experience and thought we'd just do it DIY. We used materials like wood, screwdrives, DC motors, and after about a year, we had this machine that didn't work. So we scrapped it, did more research, looked at what people were doing online, invested in proper parts like steppers and rails, used open source code, and after another year and a half, we had a machine that kind of worked.
So we started searching for what to make it paint. This proved much more challenging than we thought. Image-based painting was above our coding level, and randomized paintings looked really boring. We were stuck and worried we'd wasted a lot of time. So we stepped back and thought about other ideas.
We thought about bringing it to events and maybe setting it up with a controller, but that was going to be a real challenge and would be really embarrassing if it didn't work. So we thought, streaming. That's a similar idea we can do right now. We'll let the audience decide what to paint, and it's super low risk. So we did a quick search, how to, Twitch plays Pokemon, and we had our robot on Twitch. And what started as us giving up on something turned into something really cool. People came to our stream and painted whatever they wanted. They joyfully collaborated and occasionally got mad at each other. It was really relaxing to watch. I knew people were going to stop by and eventually these paintings were going to come together. So yeah, that's a quick introduction to that project and kind of where we started as interactive work.
Thinking about interactive work too, and the impact it might have on other people who are interacting with it too.
Right. I also think, as we're going to get into, like, why that wasn't the best project in my opinion.
The cool stuff that we thought was cool about Pierre, it enabled collaborative creative expression. It allowed for virtual access to resources, paint, brushes, and canvas to anyone with an internet access. And it kind of proved to us that we didn't need a large audience to connect meaningfully with other people. And this is an idea that we bring forward into other projects. I think there's like a kind of myth that you need to create a space online that serves a lot of people in order for it to be meaningful. And I think our upcoming projects kind of utilize that idea.
That you don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm. And so we also received feedback from people who came to our stream that it encouraged them to go back to painting or try other creative projects, which was really cool to hear.
Yeah. So that was the stuff that we really liked, but we felt like there was a couple problems that were hard to get at. A big one being this idea of playbur, which is a combination of the word play and labor. It's something that happens a lot with social media today, like Instagram or Facebook. It feels like you're relaxing and networking, which in a lot of ways you are, but you're also engaging in a labor for that platform. You're creating content for them and you're giving them ad revenue by watching those ads, which we all do. I'm not here to say I don't do that as well. But it's not a great practice, especially for an art practice, thinking about automation. It really kind of sums down to, how am I going to ask my friends to come sit for hours and make a painting for me when I'm clearly the one who's benefiting the most out of that interaction? It's a tough sell, and I think we could do better. And I think automation can have a bigger purpose outside of that, outside of playbur and labor. So we kind of stopped doing that project so much and talked more about what automation should be. We wanted to introduce a project that is connected to the painting robot, and then how this thinking kind of parallels Breakfast Bot. So we're going to quickly go through this project that we just started, and then we'll get to the Breakfast Bot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
AFK Residency, Away from Keyboard Residency, is a project we just finished like a couple weeks ago. It's 3 painting robots at a museum, and they all kind of work on pre-made but explorative output. So this is what they look like. And a big part of the idea is that if we're going to automate something, we should have leisure that goes with that. We shouldn't continue if we're that's really important to us. So invited artists will work with us to develop a work for the robots to paint. And then over 3 months, while the machines are painting, the artist will explore a practice of purposeful leisure. We're kind of defining purposeful leisure as leisure that's outside of capitalism, so not something that's for financial benefit, something that's just more for yourself. And then this is really excited. It's a paid residency for our artists, paying them for their labor, making the work, but also to explore that leisure, because we think that's super important.
Yeah, for sure.
We wrote out our didactic here, which is a bit long, but
I think like the most important thing to highlight is the last sentence, which we kind of get into is, do the efficiencies of today give us space for pleasure or simply allow us more time in an endless production loop? And I think that's an important question to consider when looking at our robots or machines in general, is reframing how this can serve us and not necessarily a capitalistic output. So we're really trying to reformat, how can we make soft robots? How can we interact with them in a different way?
Right. I think that's very much where we're getting to the crux of where our initial painting robot kind of started off on the wrong foot, thinking about like, which is okay, how thinking the original idea being like, oh, this thing can paint for me while I'm working, doubling my sort of output. That sort of doubling of output happens a lot when we optimize and automate things. And I think that puts us under a lot of pressure and stresses people out. And it's a difficult thing to manage.
Right.
I think we could do better. This is our first residents, Sun and Zimmer, Nadine Nakanishi and Nick Butcher, and their work's not up yet, but it will be next week or two. And it's it's exploring these flower prints that they made and then painting different faces, and there's this sort of conversation performance that happens in the middle.
Right.
So breakfast spot.
Mm-hmm. This is a project that we worked on with laboratory residency. We started it at the beginning of January. So we're going to get a little bit into why did we make this and when we made this project. And this idea really came to me at the beginning of the pandemic, March 2020. I was really missing out going to breakfast with our friends, and a couple of them are here today watching, but this is just a couple photos of our favorite breakfast spot, and we're just, I don't know, this project's kind of a little bit of a coping way to get through this kind of missing out on social eating and being able to gather as a community around some food. So but I really felt like this breakfast spot project wouldn't exist outside of this year, because while I like the idea of having an interactive food machine, I wouldn't have felt so much the need to make it until now.
So really quickly, we're just going to talk about on a technical level, what is Breakfast Spot? It's a series of interactive collaborative streaming events that invites a Twitch audience to collaborate on making breakfast. We've expanded past breakfast, but that was the original idea for the hosts, which are us, to eat. They submit commands through these buttons and really wanted to gamify and make this experience fun and feel collaborative for this audience.
So we'll get more into why we made it. In an attempt to foster deeper and wider experiences of human interaction online, we developed Breakfast Spot. Our project simulates and amplifies the experience of preparing and sharing a meal with friends. We seek to use the best parts of machines, allowing people to connect with one another. We purposefully set up people as the input and output, Twitch audience and artist hosts, and technology as the medium for the action to create a meaningful exploration of online interactions and connection. So really we're focusing on how can we really like use robots as a medium for us to connect with each other. This project explores semi-anonymous collective care and encourages a feeling of consequence through online interactions. In a time that feels so isolating, this project counters isolation by encouraging a place to gather, collaborate, and care through sharing a meal.
And we also wanted to improve on the painting project, the Twitch painting project, and come up with something that kind of stayed away from Playbur in a way and focused more on a connection and something that felt meaningful and valuable for our audience in an equal way. So it didn't really feel like, oh, we're just getting the painting at the end. We're kind of hoping that everyone kind of gets that experience. I should say that Twitch is still engaging in Playbur because there are ads on there. We'll have to find a way around that eventually.
It's an imperfect system.
In theory.
Yeah, so this is our original sketch and our schematic. I made this sketch, back in January, and we used this 3D mock-up to get our measurements together.
So we'll go through the physical components when we do our stream, but there's a lot of different motors and materials here, and we just kind of listed these out just to show the range of stuff we're working with. Some of it is pre-made, like the cereal dispensers that we use. Some of it is 3D printed, and some of it is a lot of electronics. And some wood, a lot of
some repurposed wood, some Hot Wheels tracks.
We try to, keep it simple. Another really new thing for us was doing these vlogs and documenting our process. It's not super connected to this project, but I thought it was really worth mentioning here, just because it was a really different way of making something for us, where we're really showing each step and showing the build as we go along. I think that's definitely something we want to keep doing. These projects are kind of complicated and hard for people to understand. When you just say breakfast bot, a Twitch interactive breakfast making machine, I think it's really confusing. So I think this was something that was really a cool way to make a project and share it over time.
For sure.
We'll show a quick video, and this also shows how we were making things.
Residency week 1.
Breakfast bot week 1.
What did we do?
I took your 2D design and turned it into a 3D model.
We bought some cereal. I made some stencils. I put a pattern together and I cut out the base and the platter. And I put in the Lazy Susan and the platter and tested out the spinning.
I wrote some new code for the Arduino so we can spin the platter consistently, as well as activate our serial servos as necessary. And then we tested those serial servos and they were perfectly.
So much cereal.
A lot of cereal.
Guess we have a lot to figure out for next week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it's gonna loop forever.
So that video is from the very first week. So we did get through more development.
Yeah, that's not where we ended. Really quickly, just for the people who care about how the software works. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but starting from that Twitch input, we get that chat data and heat data, which is the clicking data. We get the chat as text, and we get the heat data just as where, XY position where someone clicked. We send that to a Python script that we wrote that takes that data and basically says, did somebody click in the right place or did somebody write the correct thing? From Python, we use Pi serial, which just is a way to talk to an Arduino. And we send G code, which is machine code, to the Arduino, and the Arduino just listens. Did we receive a command to go to a certain place? If so, send the electrical signals to the motors, which is either high or different wave signals, to move the motors to the right place. So this is kind of what the Twitch connection looks like. We get that data from Twitch through the Twitch API. We get the message and we say, does that message equal the thing we're looking for? And then we log the username, who wrote it, and then send commands to the machine. And here's the heat extension, the click position, a little bit as well. We just get the X and Y position. We say, is it within the right X range? Is it within the right Y range? If so, do a thing. That's the really quick explanation of how it all works. So here's how it comes together. These are the different buttons. If this was the stream, you could click at these places and it would activate the different things.
Right.
And then you could also write in the chat these different words.
So they would just register as commands to the script.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we thought about creating this experience for our audience and thinking about gamification, which is kind of just using game design ideas to kind of make a more interactive experience. So we use gamification to allow the Twitch audience to create drama, consider care, and interact with other users to make a more collaborative effort. This allows us to explore the motivations of our audience, a mixture of people we know really well and not at all, our friends, community, and Twitch users. We wanted to choose ingredients that allow for a range of positive and negative food experience. Can an audience show love if love is the only option? And then we chose to label each person's dish so there would be a sense of consequence for the food choices, and we would end up with separate experiences to discuss. Will one of us get a bad dish? So we're really trying to make for a more full experience that might feel like you could have some control over what we are going to eat.
Yeah, so that's kind of the game stuff we were thinking about. So these are the different streams. We did 2 streams so far, and we're going to do 1 more right now after in a few minutes. So the first one we did was s'mores. We added, as kind of a last minute decision, to add like salt and sprinkles. The salt being a kind of less love option and the sprinkles being the more love option. This was on Valentine's Day. And that was fun. That was like added a lot of like controversy or talk in the chat about which was more worth adding. So that was really fun. And we had a little bit of problems with our spinning platter, but I think that was kind of okay. It was kind of fun to kind of try and fix things and show how DIY this project is live, including doing the fire by hand. We just had a little light turn on whenever there was supposed to be this butane torch was supposed to be on fire, and then we would just do it by hand. Just a really simple solution to a complex problem.
Who knew fire would be hard to trigger? This was our last stream that we did, which was cereal and coffee. We learned that time plays an important part in these streams because we ended up with a bunch of super soggy cereal and super dry cereal on top, and it was a mixed experience for sure. But we can see a little bit of what we had in our bowl. We had fruity cereal, which is Trix, and peanut butter chocolate cereal, some espresso beans, some smashed blueberries, and the secret spice blend we made that was cayenne, sugar, and cinnamon. Pretty good.
Yeah, and we got some feedback that it was hard to tell which dispenser had the different food in it. So hopefully we have a little more clear today which one's which, but we could probably use more labels.
Okay, so we tried to get some audience feedback, and this is just really from my friends. They experienced enjoyment, they felt a sense of collaboration and connection, which are really all things that we were trying to create or allow for with this project. And then we asked them how they participated. So they helped make the food by clicking the buttons or writing in chat. They experienced indirect and direct collaboration with others. Maybe they just clicked but didn't talk to anyone else. So that might be an indirect collaboration, or you might directly collaborate with someone by talking about a goal that you might have. And then I also heard that they shared a meal with us on stream. So they knew we were going to have cereal. They also ate cereal with us. Things like that.
Yeah, I feel like those are the type of interactions that we were hoping for, and I think make it feel like a really equal sort of relationship between the audience and the viewer.
Right.
Hopefully. So yeah, this was kind of our experience, the things that we really enjoyed, or just found interesting. So definitely a sense of connection. It was really cool to see a broad range of people being there at the same time, like today, clicking buttons and making the thing happen. That was really meaningful.
We experience a feeling of vulnerability when we're eating whatever the audience makes us on camera. The audience can make food that's too salty, spicy, or whatever. And without trying to imply it in our expectation, we entrust them to make us food that's enjoyable, which it can totally not be. And then we're really thinking about care as well in this, since this project is really supposed to simulate or amplify feelings of gathering together with friends and making that possible. We really hope that that feels like a good experience for other people, and that they feel that our attention was also rewarding.
It was definitely a fun experience for us and everyone. We ran this on a couple of stressful days, and it was actually really relaxing to kind of do it and know our friends and strangers were there hanging out, and interacting and kind of making something meaningful. And the food experience was generally, people tried to be nice. Both were interesting, very sugary, s'mores. There was some discomfort with the food, but I think that's kind of the point in some ways to explore that sort of discomfort, and like I think it's more of a shared moment when things go wrong. Like I think the stories that I remember most in life are when things didn't go quite right. Those kind of things that I enjoy.
Yeah. So overall, it's just pretty exciting to see what we can do from stream to stream and what we learned from that.
Yeah, and how we can kind of continue to think about robots and automation from a more empathetic place, and how can they really connect us, for sure. So Breakfast Bot's going to be an ongoing project, and we're going to keep going with it. Why stop now? We already did the hard part of building it. So these are some of the things that we want to add.
So we're thinking about creating ways to have more audience control. So allowing the audience to pick the overall ingredients before streaming. So maybe we don't present a category, but instead present a list of things that could be picked from and put together. We want to put together a written rating system. So this is something that we would write on our experience that could more easily be compared to other experiences and see, okay, this dish was A to B comparatively. And then we're also thinking about how we could bring this experience to a wider audience by streaming in different time zones, maybe inclusive of a midnight snack stream.
Yeah, and we're also talking about sharing the experience post-COVID. I think it'd be really fun to do it as a group of almost like not an interview, but a hangout with other friends, and just kind of eat together and gather even more if we can.
Yeah, I also like this idea, so it's not just like feed us and nobody else, but there also might be more interesting experiences to see what other people might feel, or because we have a little experience dealing with interactive work online that's collaborative, it might be cool to bring that to other people and see what do they feel about it.
Yeah, I'd also like to, for ourselves, explore other food options that are like maybe more personal to us, and we could also explore food options with the people that we're streaming with.
Sure.
Like more cultural food, like
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then finally we just like, after we actually make a good number of dishes, we'd like to put our photos of food together, our experience and our audience experience, and gather it into an overarching book, video, or other format. We haven't really decided yet, but I think that's an important part of this project, is how do we put it all together?
That's all for that portion of this. We're gonna do a demo, so I'm gonna start the stream, fingers crossed, and then we'll show how the interaction works on Twitch, and if other people want to jump on, they can interact with it on Twitch as well. After the stream, we'll be hanging out for a little bit and eat. After the Q&A, we'll hang out a little bit on this Twitch stream and eat whatever we end up making.
Which is pizza ingredients.
Yeah, it's pizza. We haven't plugged all this in yet, so hopefully we don't blow a fuse.
Yeah, so that concludes the end of this talk.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
It was great. Are you still going to be sharing your screen? I might have missed that part.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, wonderful. Then I'm
just setting up the pizza, but should we start into the Q&A then?
I think we should
do
the demo first.
Oh, okay. Or demo?
Yeah, let's do the demo.
Okay,
oh, perfect. Sounds good.
Snaring.
It shouldn't take me more than a couple seconds.
What happens?
Okay, hold on. Sorry. All right. Okay, so in theory, we're ready.
Do we have a Twitch link?
I do. Let me run it, and then I'll show this, and then I'll put the link in the chat if other people want to try it. All right, so we're live. I just started this. I have to write start over here. Oh, our red pepper is covered. So we bought a pizza pizzazz. Oh, you can kind of see the weird delay. This. So if I click, let's start easy. Parmesan. Let me do this. Okay, hold on. Let's try that again. There we go.
Okay.
So you probably heard it behind me, but in a second, there's some Parmesan.
Here's the stream.
Normally have better stream quality, but we used our nice camera for our faces. So there's also a little timer, so you can't cook it like 100 times. You can cook it once every 10 seconds. So the stream is a bit delayed, but the interaction from cooking is almost instantaneous. So we'll try some of our more complicated ingredients. Hopefully these work. Like all great things, completely untested. So we got some cheese. Nice.
Yes.
And we put jalapeno over here, or I'm sorry, pineapple, which is a bit sticky.
Came out.
And jalapeno and giardiniero to kind of do a bit of spicy. That might, a little bit. Okay.
That's a good amount.
Nice, not too much.
So yeah.
And then the last one is sauce. It's not going to work because it's going to have to load.
The sauce in the TV.
There we go. You'll see it in a minute, I guess. There's the sauce. So that's why it just had to fill up. So in 30 seconds, we'll cook it again and it should dump it. So we also added a puzzle. We couldn't add pepperoni, like a pepperoni dispenser. We just didn't have enough dispensers. So we came up with a puzzle. And if somebody writes the right answer to the puzzle in the chat, it will dispense all the pepperonis at once. So this was kind of like a big ticket item because it can only happen once. So we were like, how can we make a cost for this item that isn't like financial or time-based, but it's just like something more fun. All right, so somebody clicked the sauce. Hopefully somebody clicked it.
Oh, it's so saucy. Okay.
Yeah, I'll link it since other people are going crazy. Where's chat? There's chat. Oh, Kristen linked it. Okay. So yeah, and then this will also get hot. So we'll turn the pizza. I'm gonna wait to turn the pizza pizzazz on in case that causes problems like fire.
So we should like look at it.
One last thing is there's we color dyed the dough, so there's a green side and a pink side.
Oh,
Wait, we gotta move this.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
I'm lost a bit.
I think we can.
Okay. I'm sorry, it's so funny. We might need to stop this. It's so distracting. Okay, I turned it off. I'll turn it back on in a second.
Because we do have to run this Q&A.
Thanks for trying it out. It's clearly working. That's the demo. So yeah, we're gonna hang out after the Q&A and eat whatever we make. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That's so fun. I'm glad. I'm curious to see how the pizza pizzazz turns out.
Me too. It smells like.
Did you guys test it yet?
No. Oh, we said not like this.
We put pizza
normal pizza
on it.
Nice. Cool. Well, I guess we'll find out. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna unspotlight you guys.
Yeah, so we're gonna it was way more distracting than I thought. So we're gonna leave the stream stopped for a minute, and then or the interactive stopped, and then we'll pick it up after the Q&A.
Awesome. Sounds great. So I'm trying to spotlight all of y'all. You may have to stop sharing your screen for a little bit during the Q&A. No, it's okay.
I forgot.
Awesome. That way we can put Cal on a spotlight too.
Smells like pizza.
It really does.
Oh, why isn't letting me spotlight you? Oh, there we go. Cool. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Lucia Riffle, and she's going to moderate our Q&A. If anyone has questions, you can either unmute yourself or type them into the chat.
Alrighty, yeah, like Kristen said, just type anything you might want into the chat. Otherwise, feel free to interrupt me, just blurt it out. I don't mind. I'm sure the artists don't mind, and we'd love to hear from you. But I'll start out, I guess, with some questions for Cal. So, okay, I know that there was a lot of research involved in your project, and a lot of things, good and bad, involved in that research. Was there anything completely unexpected that you came across in the process?
Unexpected. Not really, except for a lot of snow. Maybe it's like an intense amount of snow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
All right, we got a question for you in the chat from Amir. They say, Cal, what happy accidents have risen from your installation sound pieces?
I would say in past projects, I don't know if happy accidents is the perfect description for this, but just kind of a lot of serendipitous occurrences because of the way that when people control the sound and blend it, it'll just be different every single time. And so just kind of things where just when someone is hearing their own voice through an installation, someone who I didn't even know a few weeks before, and they're talking about something extremely personal, and now they're hearing it through a bucket or stuffed animal mixed with these other sounds. I think hearing people just relate to certain sounds is just what comes to mind with that. Just because it's not just really open, so it's not necessarily accidental, but it's not organized, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to hear yourself. Okay, so now a question for Megan Jackson. Talking about your idea of Playber, and especially with your upcoming, y'all starting a residency, how do you two engage in intentional leisure to get away from the Playber?
This is a question that totally plagued us, building machines and it seems like such a complex project, building 3 robots that run by themselves for 8 hours a day. Coming up with an idea of intentional leisure or purposeful leisure was so hard for us. Recently we did do something around our anniversary and Valentine's Day. We did a blackout where we turned the power off, and that we didn't turn the power off. We pretended that the power was off and lit candles and just tried to explore that sort of quiet space that we used to know when we were younger, pre-computer stuff, pre-constantly playing music all day while we're working. And that was really an interesting experience for us to kind of feel that's what that was like for your brain back then. And not that that's what I was expecting going in, but that was a really purposeful leisure thing we did. We did it for 2 days.
Right.
So that was one thing.
It was kind of a thing that we could actually do because we do live in a city and it's not easy to find quiet space. Even in our own apartment, we can still hear outside noises and things like that. So it's never, I think with these kind of systems, it's never a perfect answer, but it's trying to get at the right questions,
And it's hard. I think we live in a space where it's so easy to constantly be doing work. It's hard to, it's not 5 o'clock, the computer turns off. there's always more to do, and there's always people to keep up with, and there's kind of this, we get 10% faster at something, and we fill that 10% with more work, and so it's like kind of that compression of that. You do that 100 times, and you're managing 100 times more what you were managing before, and it's just hard for your brain. So it's really hard to get away. It's really hard to get out of this system where the social media and video games and music are all designed to kind of just be that quick little interaction that's easy to do while you're focusing all your attention on labor. So anyways, yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Your 2-day getaway blackout thing sounds kind of terrifying, but also really nice. Question from Amir in the chat. Megan and Jackson, how did you settle on what food to have the robot make? What food items do you throw out, and what did you keep?
Well, we really kind of decided on, like, physically what is the easiest food to dispense right now, at least. So we really tried to start with what's easiest and then kind of work our way around those problems, I think.
Yeah, I think there's different types of things, right? There's things that fit in that cereal dispenser really well, and there's things, liquids like milk and tomato sauce. And then we kind of added these shakers for the salt and sprinkles, but then kind of what kind of things fit in that. Pizza ended up just being like a really good fit for all these things. But I would say we haven't tried anything and skipped it, really.
I tried to eat it.
We tried to eat everything. That was another thing, like, we didn't love about the cereal one, was there was kind of a mess in the middle, and it just got so soggy that it really wasn't edible or salvageable. With the s'mores one, you could kind of pick at the marshmallows in the middle. But so we were like, especially that's kind of part of why we wanted to do pizza this way. It was like, hopefully everything lands on the pizza and we can actually eat all that. Because food waste, there's no reason to just be pouring food on the floor. So yeah.
All right. So question from Chelsea for everybody. So she was saying that she's very struck by all your different stylistic approaches to making work that still involves code. So could all of you talk about how your work in other mediums impacts how you imagine and create with code? Callie, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay. How does my work in other mediums affect how I work in code? I guess like it just first off, it means it just like the only reason to use code is to mimic the multimedia work that I do. So how can I code things where sound and visuals are accompanying each other or have a really direct relationships? Yeah, I guess just coding. I keep going back to the idea that like coding helps you make an organized archive. Sculpture and sewing and all the kind of messy other medias make a messy archive. And that's not good or bad, but it's like just makes me feel like, oh, I can use code to create a organized archive. Yeah, I think that's a base of it. It's just like I want to use interactive sound stuff in coding, and yeah, it's like
yeah, that makes sense. I think it goes really well with your work, actually. Like it's archiving, like you were talking about.
Yeah,
all right, Megan really, Jackson. Oh, yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say it was really cool to see how that process went from like the physical for Cal's project, how it went from like the physical ideation into the more digital sphere. Yeah, that was really cool to see. I guess I'll talk about this one since I do more of the coding. From the animation background, I think animators are generally good robotics and code people because you're kind of already thinking about that structure. I hope so.
I was gonna say that like I would answer a very brief thing of how I could relate to code, and then you can expand on it.
Okay.
Maybe. Because I feel like with animation, just simply explaining it, there are so many things. There's a multiplication factor with animation because you're generating a lot of frames per minute. You're dealing with 24 frames per second, and when you're dealing with all of that multiplying, you really have to be very organized. So I think that's majorly my point is organization. And when you have to think organization, you have to think structure. And I think you bring that structure in more organically the more you make animation.
Right. Just kind of that base, how you're
base
going to start.
understanding
Yeah.
of structure and expression together.
I think it's good that you answered that because you kind of did more of the structure and base of this whole project. So.
Right.
As far as the specific coding, animation is very much build a thing, figure out how to make it move. And it's very input output oriented. So what signals, numbers, or position data are you sending to move something around? And then what is that output? So for robotics, it kind of leads to that kind of input output thinking makes things easier to imagine in your brain. We can almost imagine it as if I were to build this as an animation, how would I build it? Okay, now how will I build it as a real thing? Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I guess that's it.
Yeah, I like the way that Megan put it with how organized you have to be to make something look freeform. I think that applies to both of y'all's projects really well. Okay, another question from the chat from Melissa. They say, Cal, as your objects that inhabit the wires and speakers evolve, how does it change the relationship of the audience to the object? And how does it change the project's meaning to you?
Well, I would say that the big changes were that in the beginning it was buckets and crocheted wires, and then it was pillows and blankets, and now it is little PNG images on a 2D field. But initially, I think like the buckets and wires really lend themselves towards like people just kind of like dipping in, like wee, 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 and taking it out, and dance. Like I was really focusing a lot more on dance and choreography for the buckets, and was kind of like wasn't getting enough of like, oh, like this is a really intense interview that you should like stop and listen to, but it didn't really lend itself because you had to like bend down and you're just kind of like standing around these wires. And so changing to like blankets and pillows really slowed down interaction and brought people closer to the sounds and the ground. Like it was like, oh, I don't need to bend down. I could just like lay down or sit down. And I think even before it was blankets and pillows, like a lot of the objects I make just try to have like soft auras so that they're just like inviting, and there's like, you want to care for the object that is giving you sound. But then when it becomes a digital 2D thing, it's just kind of like taking a test or something. I don't even know. It's just like not the same type of like feeling, moving, sensory experience. It's kind of like I don't know, like I don't know, like a maze or something. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more like a game.
Right. Yeah.
I want to piggyback on that question, and I was wondering because you talked a little bit about how you can use your pieces as just sound when you had like the flute playing that you were playing in it. Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought or made any pieces intentionally as more sound compositions or like musical even?
Yeah, I think like with all these projects, like the music is just like underneath the umbrella of sound, and like because music can function in so many different ways, like within the song, you could find a recording of a song, or you could just make a song like of your own, or like it's just kind of like an unlimited possibilities of approaching music. So I would say it's all just like under sound, and like the project can lend itself to music in different ways, and like can be part of a performance, or there can be pieces written and scores, but that yeah, music just like falls within sound, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really cool. I'd love to interact with some of them, like, in real life, and get to feel all the feels and to hear all the sounds. Question from the chat from Kristen for Megan and Jackson. With your animation skills, have you ever thought about making video games?
Yes.
It's like a weirdly contentious topic for us. Not really.
Not really. But
Megan is very pro.
I have the desire, but it's, it does take time. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a different level of thing. It's similar to robotics and code. An animation only has to work right one time, and you press render and you forget about it forever. And a video game has to work right every time somebody plays it. So it's a very different level of doing something. I think there's a lot of opportunity with video games, and a lot of moments to explore things. I think we haven't quite found something that quite felt right.
I mean, I think whatever game we would make would be something that's simple.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. But I think there are some really cool opportunities with video games for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Maybe we can make a fishing game. Anyway, no, sorry. Different subject.
That sounds fun. All right, you guys also got a question from the chat from Melissa. They say, it seems like you've created parameters that limit the participants' interaction on Twitch. For example, time limit before being able to do a certain action again. Why did you implement that guardrail, and how does it inform you about human tendencies when given control virtually, since people you know and don't know can participate?
I would say for me, it was a very technical choice. Like, these things can take time, and if you didn't have a stop, you could double click it, right? So you might click it once, and then, oh, it didn't happen. Let me click it again, and then you would be. This kind of happened with the painting machine. You would click to get more paint, and people would click it like 5 times or more, and then it would just go get paint 10 times. So you kind of have to put a delay in, so that it just kind of pauses. And then I also think it kind of hopefully makes you more purposeful than just spamming it all,
Right.
which
will probably happen depending on how many people are in the stream anyway. So I think kind of like a way for people to be able to share time, basically. And I guess there is kind of more of the bringing in of physicality when you can actually limit how much you can do as well.
Yeah, forcing people to slow down sometimes is nice. Alrighty, Cal, question from the chat from Derry Joe. Can you talk about some of your favorite artists, musicians, and humans? They would love to hear, and they'll take notes.
Yes, cool. I'd say definitely just like totally my friends who make music are the best. Some of them include my friend Avenue P Block Party, who makes music as Mr. True Love. Their Instagram is Gross Beyonce, at Gross Beyonce. My friend Paco makes music as The Cradle. just like really good music. My friend Lily Konigsberg, who's in the band Palberta, really good. My friend Park, this project is called Frankie Consent, and we like have gone on tour across the country together, and just like really amazing multimedia artist. I could just like keep mentioning my friends forever, but I will say also I like David Graeber is a great anthropologist, activist who I love. Brandon LaBelle is like a sound art artist, theorist who writes cool books about like this one book called Sonic Agency. It's really good. Brandon LaBelle, a little bit too jargony, but also great critical theory. Sound stuff is always fun for me to read. Anna Halpern and Lawrence Halpern are the coolest. They were a couple who just like really just made us extremely expansive landscape architecture practice. Anna Halpern's an extremely famous like dancer, taught Trisha Brown, and just like combining dance and like the body being in the environment and using like interactive mapping strategies and like learning to understand a community and ecology through like workshops in the 70s. And Anna Halpern also just is like a super person. Like she like used dance to defeat her cancer in like a literal exorcism. She's like just like yeah. And Ant Farm is a cool artist collective. I could go on for a long time about cool people.
Do you want to put some of those in the chat?
Yeah.
Even just like when you're throwing out your
on my website, I have like a list, like in my contact page. Let me just find that and then copy and paste it.
Yeah, that would be great.
It's just kind of a random list, but it's like, yeah. I'll put that in the chat. Thank you for asking that. And yeah.
Yeah, thanks for giving us so many awesome people to look up. This is great. Ooh, alrighty. Awesome.
There it is.
Cool. Alrighty. Oh, and they have a note for you. Derry Joe does in the chat, Cal. So,
oh, right.
You want to check that. They have some suggestions for you.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess if anybody has more questions, like please keep typing them in, or if you want to unmute yourself and say them out loud, feel free to do so. But I'm going to ask some kind of closer questions. So Megan and Jackson, I know you talked about how you're starting a residency of your own and you've got some projects in the works with that. And obviously you're making pizza right now with the breakfast bot, but do you have any other bots planned for the future? If so, what are you thinking about having them do, or what's on the continued menu for the breakfast bot?
That's a good question.
The projects that I think were most in the front of our minds, we have like a kind of book of, we try and write down all of the projects we come up with in abstract and then just see if there's different places where they might be a good fit. But most of them are like painting or drawing machine focused, and then kind of looking at automation and leisure in space, in a more museum type space. Mm-hmm. One of them being a data ribbon. It's like a 3-story piece of paper that uses a drawing machine to write data and information on it. Another one is we recently pitched somewhere that is called Leisure Court, which is a really wild idea, which is a big painting machine that would paint portraits of the people in the space. Kind of if you hang out, it kind of needs someone in the space to hang out, and then it will kind of paint them if they hang out. These are just ideas. These are not real things.
As long as they are there as well. But yeah, they are just ideas right now.
So that's, yeah, kind of like that. Those are two that we've been talking about most, but we'll see if they ever happen.
Right.
That's so exciting. Those both sound really cool. So hopefully someday they come into existence. Yeah. Alrighty. And Cal, similar question. I know you said that, your piece is living and will continue to evolve as nature and fracking both do in their own ways. Do you have any other projects underway right now or starting anything new?
I'll say I'm definitely just like excited to bring the blankets to this one park right next to the wastewater treatment plant and like have the sounds to be interactive because it's a really secluded park and just beautiful. So we'll see. I'm really excited about this album that I started at the beginning of quarantine that will hopefully come out over the summer, and I'm working with like a lot of friends to make like a full-length video of it called Less Than Three, and just like continuing to make clothing and for people to like sell to people and friends. Yeah, not many more lucid projects, but
okay.
Oh, rollerblading. I have to be the best rollerblader in the world. Need to be able to do every trick at the skate park. That's kind of my, I think, gonna take up the most energy.
Yeah, that'll be a good summer project.
Yeah.
Well, that's really exciting. Yeah, you all have so much going on. That's really cool. So let's see. I don't think there's been any more questions in the chat. So I just want to thank you all for giving such great talks. It's been great to see your projects evolve over the last couple of months, and it's been cool to get to know everybody. So I'll hand it off to Kristen.
Thank you.
Thanks. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and just drop in the chat where you can follow everyone's work to stay up to date on what they're working on. And if it's not too late, wherever you are tuning in, be sure to head over to Laboratory's Twitch and make some pizza for Megan and Jackson. Thank you all so much. It was a joy having you as residents and watching your work. And I really look forward to continue following your work. And yeah, just thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. All right, everyone. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and be sure to follow Laboratory on Instagram as well if you aren't already. We have some pretty great events coming up in Spokane and both remotely as well. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.